Okay, I'm supposedly live. Yay! Is it working? I hope it's working. Hi there, my name's Chris. I do a podcast and a YouTube show, and I say things for a living. And there's 3 people in here right now, but that's all right. The 3 of us are going to have a blast. I'm assuming that if it worked, there's 17 people. I'm assuming eventually, if we build it, people will arrive. I think you're awesome. And you're awesome for wearing that hat that you have on there. And what's going on? Good to see you. Andy says, hey. I'm getting a text from one of the producers. Let's see. Well, that frankly didn't help, producer. Dave Hewitt did not help. It was about something else. How are you guys? 3 and a possum, says Andrew. Indeed, it was 3 and a possum, and now it's 103 and a possum. Andre says, woot. Big Timer says hello. Murdoch says, avast ye filthy boomers. Excellent, Murdoch. Cody says, what do you think of footy James White? Yeah, you can just start asking me questions. That's cool. What I think is it's a Patriots running back, and good luck. I mean, it's the deal we all signed up for. If you see my ranks at harrisfootball.com, you'll see that I have him rated the highest among the Patriot running backs, but yeah, in any given week, they can mess you. It feels like his role should be the stablest, but obviously they sometimes decide that's not the case. Tyler then says, tell me what I want to hear about Sony Michel. And if you listen to the podcast, you know that I said some nasty things about Sony Michel. By the way, does everybody realize I have a podcast? I hope you all realize I do a podcast 5 days a week. So in addition to being a YouTube magnet, which, let's face it, not quite a YouTube magnet yet, but it's going well. I appreciate all your support on the YouTube show. But I have a podcast 5 days a week. That one's kind of big. That's the moneymaker. That's the thing that pays my bills. That pays these yacht cleaning expenses. You can find all about the podcast at harrisfootball.com or wherever you get podcasts, let's face it. So yeah, what I said about Sony Michel was it hasn't been good. I think what Sony Michel has proven over a year plus is that he's the running back who gets what's blocked, and when there's nothing blocked, he looks a lot like Jordan Howard, which is certainly disappointing for a first-round draft pick. I can't tell you what's going to happen in any given week with the Patriots running backs. Obviously, last week they didn't feel like they needed him that much, or they used Burkhead way more. I will say that for sure Burkhead hits the hole harder. I think he's a worse athlete. He's probably slower, straight line, but He gets to those outside zone runs faster, and he hits the crease harder, and he makes more out of the same play that Michel doesn't make a lot out of. It's disappointing. You can see at harrisfootball.com where I have him ranked. You're not going to be that pleased. John says hi. Tim says, hey, Mr. H. Kim says, hey, Harris. Jeff says, MVS or Gallman. So I did Gallman today on flexual healing for the podcast. I did a segment I do every Thursday in which I query of, especially the Twitter following, follow me at Harris Football. I question everybody, hey, what are your big flex questions? Hashtag flexual healing. And then I add them all up and I pick the most asked about. And Wayne Gallman, I think, was second most asked about. And he came out ahead of Maurice Valdez-Scantling. But it's an interesting conversation. If you want to listen, you might like it. IDev Lee says, welcome. Okay, everybody welcome in. Connor says, Aaron Jones or Marlon Mack? So that's a good question because it's a running back question. So any single position questions that you have during this chat, I encourage you. I'm not going to read out any more single position questions. I'm going to do my best to stay away from them because all you have to do is go to harrisfootball.com and you'll see who I have ranked higher between a running back and a running back, wide receiver, quarterback. My answer is there for you. Sir Dre says, I'm here for moral support. I hear you. Mark says, LOL, Harris Football, baby. Indeed, it is I. Jack says, of course we'll have a blast. Mr. Moriarty says, 3 people, 3 thumbs up. I mean, we're up to 175 people right now, so hi, everybody. Taker Time says, we're here, Chris. Donnie says, yay. H just says Brussels sprouts. That's all. I think on the podcast I said something about being the best tasting Brussels sprout. I kind of like Brussels sprouts. That's something my old friend Doug Walston used to say, who's not watching this, who's in – is he in China? I think he's probably in China. And he used to say things were the best tasting Brussels sprout. And I was always like, I kind of like Brussels sprouts. But Alan says, Larry Fitzgerald or Shady McCoy in a point per reception. So tough. I mean, I think it's a good question, and I probably don't have a definitive answer for you to say I'm positive which I would do, which one is right. But I'll say, just by way of talking about it a little bit, obviously McCoy represents more risk. And with the Chiefs offense, he's got a chance to score 3 touchdowns. And so I think if you're meaning in your flex, if you look at the rest of your lineup, and this is a good lesson for everybody, I talk about this all the time on the Thursday podcast, that if you are looking at your opponent, looking at the rest of your lineup, you get the feeling, I'm going to need to shoot the moon here. I got to look for something that's a little extra something. Then I play McCoy. I think Fitzgerald's probably a little safer if you look at everything else and goes, just lock in my 15 points, my 7 to 15 points. That's more Fitzgerald. Fantasy 2018, PPR, Fournette or Sterling Shepard? Another good question. I don't have a definitive on that one. I'd say I lean toward Shepard, thinking Washington looks like a nice matchup, but of course the Giants stink. So I think it's like 2 bad teams against each other. Chris says howdy. MVP says, would you trade away Melvin Gordon for Joe Mixon? So I have rest of the season ranks on harrisfootball.com, and on them right now, Joe Mixon is definitely ranked higher. So at the moment, I guess I would. But obviously, Melvin Gordon's the big unknown. We're getting him back. He's probably not going to play this week. Hopefully he works himself into shape, and he's already in shape, and he's ready to be the man next week. I mean, it seems like a better situation team-wise, and yet more competition for touches with Austin Eckler there. So I think it might be fair. I think yes. I think I prefer the Mixon side of a deal like that. But if you have sort of one-to-one trade questions, a lot of them can kind of be answered on that rest of the season ranks on Harris Football. What do we got? TJ says, Dylan says, appreciate you getting on. Thank you, DJ. Thank you, Dylan. TJ says, thoughts on handcuffing the whole Chiefs backfield? Okay, it's 4 guys now, I think, right? It would be Damian Williams, LaShawn McCoy, Darwin Thompson, Darryl Williams. It feels like to spend a quarter of your it's just a lot, right? And maybe you go, okay, Darwin Thompson's not in the case, so now it's Williams, and McCoy. I don't feel obliged to do it, and I'll say it's simply because it feels like it's going to be a platoon, and when you own all pieces of a platoon, it's never that fun to start any of them, right? What you're hoping when you own the handcuff is that someone gets hurt and someone else inherits the job, but it feels like if it's going to be 3 guys, maybe I don't feel that invested in having to do that. What's your Fighting Mario says, what's your opinion about O.J. Howard long-term? I'm still positive. I'm still pro. Talked about O.J. Howard with Liz Loza, the great Liz Loza, on Wednesday. Can we get a little love for Liz Loza? I mean, if you guys, whoever listened to that pod, you gotta love Liz Loza. So yeah, I'm still positive. I have him 5 this week. I know you're saying that you're starting Will Dissly over him. That's your choice. It could work out. I completely get it. I don't have concerns long-term with O.J. Howard. I think he'll be just fine. Herman says, I'm the best. Well, thanks. Killian says, hello, Mr. Harris and Mr. Possum. I know. Where is the... Can I don't see him. He's over there. He ain't shy. I'll tell you that right now. Yuya says, boomer alert. Liz I informed Liz on the show yesterday on the podcast about how people on the YouTube channel were calling me a boomer. And she's like, you're not a boomer. You're the only person who's trying to age yourself in the world. True enough. Dave Hewitt goes, fine, because he's the one who texted me. I'm a little behind. Should we? Bryant says, should we drop Antonio Brown? So we can talk a little about this. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I wish to some degree, I understand when you ask someone who nominally does this for a living. I do it for a living, but like nominally knows what he's talking about. You're kind of just looking for reassurance. And the truth is, in a case like Brown, I don't have any idea any more than you do. It's the same thing with injuries. Like I get a lot of like, is he going to play? I'm reading exactly the same thing as you are. I really have no idea. I just don't know whether a team's going to sign him. I have literally no more of an idea whether Antonio Brown gets signed than you. I can't tell you whether you're going to regret cutting him. I really have absolutely no idea. I know that if he got signed by somebody, you'd be really bummed, and I really don't know. I don't know what the likelihood that he is that sort of everything, like in a puff of smoke, everything gets okay. There is an X% chance that in a puff of smoke, the case disappears. He turned out all the time. I'll talk about Brown for a second, about risk in general, right? I've just said this on the show, but I haven't said it. I've said it on the podcast. I haven't said it on YouTube. I mean, risk in general means the bad thing can happen, right? We understand we often take risky players because, Zeke Elliott, that was a good draft pick. Melvin Gordon is starting to feel like maybe that was a chance worth taking if you got him in the 5th round or something. And Tonio Brown in the 3rd is now looking like a total turd bucket, And of course, had anybody in the media known that this case was pending, that these texts were going to be out there, all this horrible stuff, nobody would have recommended drafting him. That's very clear. And also to say, oh, well, we should have known because he was erratic before this. I'm here to tell you, I get it. There are just people out there who like to be able to put people in boxes. And that's everybody's own deal, man. I'm cool with it. You gotta live, everybody's gotta live their life and view people the way they view them. But all I can say, having been around quite a number of ex-NFL players at ESPN and, by association, hearing a million stories about players in the NFL, if you think Antonio Brown's shenanigans with the balloon and the feet and all that stuff are the weirdest, sort of most deviant thing that goes on among NFL players, oh, buddy. So to draw a straight line and say because he was on a balloon ride and he froze off his feet and he yelled at Mike Mayock meant that he was definitely going to go down the road of these terrible things that are legitimately terrible and not silly. I just feel like in my opinion, people should be free to do what they want to do. But, in my opinion, that's painting with a little bit too broad of a brush. And I don't regret the Antonio Brown call as a result. I regret because it didn't work out, but that's what risk is. I can't tell you whether he's going to sign with a team. I don't think anybody. I bet you Adam Schefter doesn't know. I bet he talks to Drew Rosenhaus all the time, and I bet they don't know. All right, so let's see where we are here. Let's see. Kim says Miles Sanders or Mike Williams. Sorry, no podcast yet today, says Kim. Kim, I saw your tweet, and I don't remember which one I picked. I don't remember which player it was, but I certainly mentioned you on the podcast today, so thank you for that, Kim B. So I did Mike Williams. So you'll get a lot of Mike Williams talk on the Flexual Healing, and there's no right answer between Mike Williams and Miles Sanders. I think it comes down to how much risk you want to take on. Miles Sanders is pretty risky, though. I think in most cases, I'd just shoot the moon and say, let's go Mike Williams, let's go Chargers. Let's just try to, hopefully we get 5 touchdowns against the Dolphins and we're all good. Obviously, Mike Williams hasn't played great, and I would want to know more about the back injury, but I'm probably leaning toward Mike Williams in a lot of sort of high risk embracing type flex scenarios, I guess I would say. So far, right now we have 250 something people in this room and 79 likes. What did I do? Poop in your cornflakes? What the heck? Just feels like until I get to 150, I don't know if I can continue. I am like James Brown, Matt Breida with the cloak over me, and I'm walking off stage. I can't. 110. It's like Tinkerbell. If everybody applauds, Tinkerbell will live. I'm an exact cross between Tinkerbell and James Brown, I guess. I don't know. 120. Oh, 121. That was great. That extra one person really made a difference. 127. 258 people watching, and 127 of you liked this video. That seems just 130. That just seems wrong. 136. We're getting close to 150. I appreciate how close we're getting, but we're not there yet. 141. Yeah. Yeah, we're doing it. 144, 265 people in this room, though. Just feels like maybe you're not. 149, we're real close to 150. We should be at 200, but I'll start talking again. There we go. We're at 150. Okay. Let's see. Felix says, should I start? No, Felix, that's a running back question. You're typing it again and again and again. Just go on into the Harris Football ranks, and you will find my running back ranks. Let's see. What do we got? Connor, same thing. Felix just keeps typing the same thing. I'm not going to answer it, buddy. Let's see. Digital Hunter 42. Is that Dave Hunter? Could that be Dave Hunter from a million years ago? Would you trade Gurley for Mixon in a keeper league? How do I feel about that dynasty-wise right now? I don't feel strongly that I would be miles apart on Gurley as a keeper versus Mixon as a keeper. I feel like they would be pretty close one way or the other. some of the bloom is off the girly rose, and I feel like it's sort of about workload, but I think it's more about, hey, is that Ram offense going to be okay? I probably still prefer Gurley to Mixon. Probably. Because in the long sweep of history, I sort of trust that Sean McVay will figure things out. But I don't feel as confident as I did a month ago. That is for sure. Let's see. I got Ingram. Would you trade this is Lendoris. I got Mark Ingram. Would you trade Adrian Peterson for Gus Edwards? Sure, that's fine. As long as Adrian Peterson's nowhere close to being in your lineup, even you don't need him for flex or anything. He's just not good for fantasy. Just probably all year not going to be good for fantasy. So to lock up the Ingram handcuff, I'm fine with that. As long as AP is like your RB5 or 6 or something, I'm fine with that. Dylan says standard: James White, Josh Gordon. I'd say White for safety, Gordon for upside. It's a cop-out, but it's sort of how I feel. I think White isn't safe. No Patriot running back is safe, but that's the role where you go, okay, there are 7 to 10 targets sitting there for James White, and he's going to have 65 yards, and then I might get a touchdown, and it's something. And Josh Gordon is more, he's got Tre'Davious White a lot of the time. He's, the Buffalo plays pretty straight up. Buffalo doesn't do a lot of exotic stuff on defense, but they last year gave Brady some trouble in Buffalo for sure. He had a nice yardage total, but there were definitely parts of that game where he had some trouble. So Gordon has a little more risk with him, but obviously when he's Josh Gordon, he might not be quite the burner that he was in the past, but he can still make a big play, as we saw against Pittsburgh. John says, any boomers welcome? Of course. I'm not one, but they're definitely welcome. Let's see. Yuya says Ronald Jones or Cortland Sutton in a half-point per reception. So I'm an early adopter on the Ronald Jones thing. As of week 1 was saying he looks different, he looks good. Maybe not even different, Ronald Jones, because I didn't get to see him much last year, but he's playing. And then week 2, everybody told me, see, you're stupid. And now week 3, people are quiet again. I still think I would play Sutton. I'm not quite ready to go to the Ronald Jones until Bruce Arians shows me that he really wants to go to the mattresses, I guess, for Ronald Jones. Then you've got a quality option in Sutton. It would seem to me that Sutton gets a little more interesting if Jalen Ramsey doesn't play, but I think he's probably still pretty interesting anyway. I think I would lean in that direction. Katie says, who are your favorite rookies? So right now, I think probably if I were completely redrafting a fantasy league from the beginning right now, what rookie would go highest? It probably would still be Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. And I'm going to dismiss the Viking game last week where the numbers were a little disappointing because he was apparently very sick. They said he lost 10 pounds, is really, really bad chest cold. Okay, I don't have any way of verifying how bad that really was, and it wasn't a very good game for the Raiders overall. He looked pretty good. The other 2 rookie running backs have just kind of been maddening. David Montgomery and Miles Sanders. You can see they're worth owning and worth hoping that at some point second half of the year they kind of distinguish themselves from their teammates, but they just haven't really. Yeah. And then like Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Hollywood Brown. These receivers have been awesome stories, but there are a lot of receivers. So if I were redrafting right now, I would probably still be shooting the moon, hoping for Jacobs to. It's been 3 weeks, hopefully to be a little bit better. But I'm going to guess some of those rookie receivers would go higher now than they would have gone. There's no guess. They would go a lot higher now than they did. Let's see. Ikaro has an interesting question. Where would you choose Patrick Mahomes in a dynasty startup? So as I recall in my almanac, which is really the only place that I keep dynasty ranks, and not Superflex. Like in a Superflex league where you're basically every week starting 2 quarterbacks, Mahomes is a first-round pick. But in a dynasty league, it's more like, late second, early third, mid-third. Mahomes stands apart from the rest of the quarterbacks. There isn't any doubt about it, especially for dynasty. He's so young. But I think I probably would not be first round and probably not until the very late second round. That would probably be the way I would go. Let me take a break and thank Manscaped for sponsoring today. Do you all know what Manscaped is? It's a titter, Manscaped. It's Power tools for your family jewels, I believe they call it. In fact, I happen to have the Lawnmower 2.0 from Manscaped. Look at that right there. Probably not going to give you a live demonstration of the Lawnmower 2.0 right now, but I have one, and let's see. It works. So this thing's great, and as sort of embarrassing as it is, I'm glad to have them as a sponsor because I turn a little red here because it's nice to be nice in the nether regions, is what I'm saying. And Manscaped is a great little. First of all, you don't want to be using the thing you use in your face anywhere else on your body. That is for sure. And this thing has a skin-safe technology, and you will not cause any grievous injury to yourself with this thing, gentlemen. And I use it, and I actually think it's a fantastic product. Manscaped is a fun sponsor. You've probably seen them all over the place. They were on Shark Tank. They actually got funded by Mark Cuban on Shark Tank. They're like kind of a big business, and there's a good reason because the product is fantastic, and it's a very clever. Obviously it's a twist on the electric razor, but don't say twist, but it is it's specifically meant for your family jewels, right? It cleans you out. So if you're interested in Manscaped, if you're interested in getting the Lawnmower 2.0, very, very fun brand. They're very fun people. It's a very cool company. Manscaped.com. I think if you use the promo code Harris20, I think it's in the show notes right now, but if you use the promo code Harris20, I think it's 20% off your first purchase at Manscaped. I really recommend them, even if right now you're like, this is ridiculous. Think about it. Think about it. Sometimes it's nice to look for your special someone. I'm not going to name names for anybody, but for your special someone, it's nice to look nice down there, Manscaped. So thank you to them for sponsoring today's chat, and I definitely would recommend you check them out. Okay. Gabe says, any additional thoughts on Dalvin Cook? What about his injury concerns? I mean, it's such a smart thing to bring up, right? You're 100% right. 3 really great games does not rid us of the specter of injury. Of course, I mean, any running back can get hurt at any time, but he has twice now shown a proclivity to burn us at some point after looking pretty good. I feel like I think the way I approach it right now is if I took Dalvin Cook, it's been all gravy, and I doubt I'm going to sell because there's a chance that offense is fantastic and as a running offense. There's a chance, I'm going to say this week against the Bears, if they're fantastic as an offense, running offense, then we're really onto something because that's an impossible defense to run against. I'm not expecting miracles from Cook this week. It's a really great, legitimate question. Is Dalvin Cook more of an injury risk than every other running back in the top 10 right now? I have no way of really knowing that. All I can say about perception of someone being injury prone is Matthew Stafford was completely injury prone his first 2 years in the league and hasn't missed a game in 8 years or something. Like it can be that someone is injury prone, or it can be that they have bad luck and they tear their ACL and it's just the way it goes. And the next year was ruined because they were rehabbing the ACL and it just wasn't right. So I think I would just hold on. I think at this point I just ride the gravy train. If it doesn't, if he gets hurt, you'll wind up feeling bad. But if he doesn't get hurt, I'm almost sure you'll wind up feeling bad that you trade him away. Samuel, good question. Kareem Hunt is on waivers. Should I pick him up now? Will he be RB1 worthy and knock Nick Chubb out soon enough to make a difference? It's still early for me. And yet, it's such a great question because we're talking about holding on to Saquon Barkley. Do we have any clarity that Saquon Barkley is going to be back before Kareem Hunt is? Nobody's telling you to cut Saquon Barkley, right? And now part of that is I think Barkley's better and probably the best running back in the game. And part of it is Nick Chubb doesn't play for the Giants, and Nick Chubb does play for the Browns. I think my instinct right now in most leagues, especially as the bye weeks start up, is that it's probably still too early for Hunt, given the fact that when he comes back, we know nothing. We have no idea. Like, I have no idea whether he'll be the RB1. If anybody out there is sure that they're positive who the starter is or whether it's a platoon, I've had people on Twitter say, you're stupid. There's no chance they're going to take Chubb out. He's the man all the way through. I've had other people say, you're stupid. Have you seen Kareem Hunt? John Dorsey, the general manager, loves Kareem Hunt. He is the man. Nobody really knows. And I think the only conclusion we have that those two factions agree on is that I'm stupid, which, let's face it, they may be onto something. For me, it's probably a little early because I don't know what the role is when he comes back. But it's a little hypocritical to say, hang on to Saquon Barkley for dear life oh, but let Nick Chubb sit there. Like, it's going to get hard to have both those guys on a team here as we get into the multiple team bye weeks coming up here pretty quick. Let's see what we got. Ooh, scrolling past some of the single position questions. Let's see. Bo says, have you read A Fan's Notes by Exley? I have read that book. I think it's fantastic. I have it back in Massachusetts, and I was in Massachusetts this summer, and that's where my copy of that book is, and I read half of it again. I really like that book a lot. Indeed. Well played. Lindor says, let's talk about the guys we thought were handcuffs but are now third on the depth chart. Darrell Henderson, Darwin Thompson, and Justice Hill. What do we do with these guys? It's hard to – I know, it's frustrating. It's hard to offer concrete advice for all leagues because in a lot of leagues like that I'm in, I have Gurley and Henderson, and there's nothing available on the waiver wire, so I'm just going to hang on to Henderson and I'll see what happens, right? But in a team where the waiver wire is pretty fluid and there's not that much scarcity, they need to go. There's no point, and except in a dynasty type situation, there's no point because they until we get a major sea change, which of course a major sea change can happen tomorrow, but we have no idea if it's going to happen. The coaches aren't going to tell us. I think probably you're going to need the roster spots, is my opinion. Let's see. We got. Would you trade? I don't know what that means, so I'm not going to read that one. That's weird. So I see a lot of single position questions. If you're joining late, then check out, if you're asking a wide receiver or a wide receiver question, it's so easy to go to harrisfootball.com and just click on the ranks. Let's see. So now we got back down to the Manscaped part of the chat. Beauty has its place, says Brandon. Oma says, what did I just walk into? And Soap Dish, who I know who that is, says, stolen from Mass Neighbor? No, it's mine. Johnny says, what do you say exactly? May says, the nether regions. Brandon says, no, you don't. There's some dirty comments in there because you can't be trusted, obviously. Cameron says they make a cordless one. Oh, yeah, that's the charger. Yeah, I just had the charger still plugged in for some reason. It is cordless. Sorry. That was dumb. May says, Manscaped ads make me laugh out loud. Senor says, how long have you been using the trimmer? I've just been using it since they sponsored. So they started sponsoring the podcast about 2 months ago or something like that, and they sent me one. So I was like, really? And then I was like, yeah, how do I trim? And I was like, oh, I guess I don't use a trimmer at all. I mean, I groom, but not with a power tool, and this is way better. Wide receiver question. Let's see. Dave Hewitt, thank you for the plug for Manscaped on there. Let's see. Ian says, use it for your Reggie Bush. Pizza Machine, I see your question. I just don't. The Philly part is confusing me. Would you trade Philly Dorsett? I guess Philip Dorsett you just mean. I get it now. Philip Dorsett for Robbie Anderson. Sure. I think you're not likely to get great impact out of either one, but if I were drafting right now, I'd probably prefer Anderson. Let's see. Alexander says, thoughts on Darren Waller long-term? I have Kelsey too. In a 12-man keeper league, and I can keep Waller for a 14th rounder next year. I've been offered Edelman and Woods thus far in separate trades. I think I would take Edelman. I mean, I think I'm a little scared of the Rams offense now, so I probably value Edelman a little bit above where I value Woods. You can check the rest of the season ranks and check out if that's really true. That's my memory of I don't always remember my own ranks. But it's not to say I don't like Darren Waller. He's been impressive. I talked about him on Flexible Healing in the podcast today, so if you're a podcast listener, listen to Thursday's show. But he belongs in the top 5. It's been impressive. Some of the Minnesota game was garbage time, but before then, he had 2 catches that were badly thrown balls that he went down for and went up for and made hands catches on, just like contorting his body. Like, he looks pretty legit. It's just if I have a flex between Julian Edelman and Darren Waller, most weeks I think I'm going to go Edelman. That could wind up being wrong, but tight end, it always seems like at the beginning of the year, these guys can't have bad weeks. All they've had are good weeks. How could you ever assume that these guys could ever have a bad week? It just, especially with tight end, it does tend to ebb and flow. Now, with the Kelseys and the Ertzes and the Kittle, Ertz has ebbed and flow a little bit. Kittle hasn't scored, but they've been pretty good usage-wise. If Waller really is ready to completely join that elite group right now, then I could wind up being wrong. But it just feels like with Edelman, I get that it's a keeper league, and you can keep him for cheap. So maybe that means aim even a little bit higher at wide receiver just because you're giving somebody a keeper. But my thought in general is that I'm fine holding on to Waller. I'm fine using him every week. I think he's a flex over all the running backs, but of those in the top 20 this week. I think you're in a great shape to just keep using him. That's fine. But I like the idea of cashing in on a position. The position seems stable for him right now. Usually that position isn't stable, although he's played great. Nathan says, thoughts on Mark Ingram. So, we're going to do Josh and I tomorrow on the podcast are going to do 5 players to trade away. And I was just texting with him earlier, and he's threatening to put Mark Ingram on his list because he sort of had to let me know beforehand so that I wouldn't cry during the show. I'm a believer still in Ingram. However, it would be hard for his value to be higher. And I recognize he's a 30-year-old running back who has other good players on his team, who has Lamar Jackson, who's a runner, who has an injury history. I get it. I am pretty sold that Ingram's going to be good for as long as he lasts. I don't know how healthy he gets, but I'll say if you are just sort of feeling like it's just a little bit of a spike here, Lamar Jackson's going to have 8 rushing touchdowns. That's just going to hurt Ingram by the math of the situation. There's never a better time to sell than right now. I get that. It probably isn't what I'm going to do, but I also say that I could very well be wrong. I get there are factors that could limit him. John, following up on the Chubb and Hunt conversation, should I sell high on Nick Chubb before Hunt is active? So in theory, sure. I think the issue is, though, that you need to pick a time when Nick Chubb's value is high. It's coming out of that national TV game where everybody saw how struggling the Browns offense was. You're not getting fair value for what Nick Chubb should be athletically as a player, how good he is. So my feeling would be wait for sure. Now, if you say, okay, in the next 6 weeks, I'm looking for an opportunity to sell, I could see my way through to kind of taking away some of that risk. I'd want to get paid. I want to get paid a lot, but I can see not right now, right? Josh says, James Conner, buy low or stay away? Very good questions. Honestly, very good questions. This is certainly not time to sell. I like where your head's at. I'm worried that offense stinks. I'm worried there's a chance that offense is kind of stinky. The Bengals should be an okay matchup for him on Monday night. I'm going to maybe be singing a different tune about buying low or not buying low if he can't do something Monday night. My James Conner, he was on my bust list this year. I thought he was going too high at the end of the first round. That was before Ben Roethlisberger was hurt, so now you really feel – it depends on how little you have to give up for him, but I'm going to assume that the person in your league isn't crazy, isn't like, awesome, you have John Ross? Sweet, I'll give you James Conner for John Ross. Well, then yes, please do it, right? But I'm assuming that it's kind of a sane situation. Then I would be maybe I'm going to stay away. Let's see. I can't believe how many people ask single position questions. I'm not going to answer them. Coffee Fresh says, "What's Austin Eckler's fantasy value after Melvin Gordon comes back?" It's a good question, and of course, the real answer is I'm going to talk out my pie hole for a minute because I don't really know. I don't know. There are many. I talked about this off the top of today's podcast. If you're interested, if you're a podcast listener and you want to hear the full thoughts, glad to reiterate right now. My thoughts are, don't know what kind of shape Melvin Gordon's in. Don't know what kind of bridges he's burned with the team. Don't know if the coach came out today and said, he's our starter. What are you talking about? Why would we have it? But what's he going to say? He's not going to tell anybody what the real story is. If they're planning on being a free agent, maybe that means just, stand in the corner there. It's working fine. We're going to use what we have. Or maybe it means let's beat this guy like a rented mule. Let's ruin this guy with 500 carries from here on out because he's not our guy next year. could be either, right? My take has been, if I were doing a draft right now, this very moment, I would take Ingram significantly ahead of where I would take Gordon significantly ahead of where I would take Eckler. I think I wound up with Gordon at like number 33 overall, something like that, and Eckler at like number 60 overall, something like that. And you can see these ranks at harrisfootball.com. But of course, I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does. So we're entirely just guessing. It's a situation that can't be divined by tape or even stats. And as skeptical as a lot of you know I am about football stats, they can't help us here. So, my feeling is it really hasn't been broken. Eckler has been just fine, has been really good. The numbers have been probably better than the actual. The Colts game was crazy. He just had breakaway run, and we'll take them, but they're hard to repeat, right? They're just sort of out of nowhere, little screen passes where the seas just part and he runs 70 yards. Like, what's happening here? You can easily point to the Lions game where they're on the 1 and they give it to him to try to bang it in, and he tries and he gets smacked and he fumbles, and that turns out to be one of the differences in the game. So Gordon is missed and useful, but Eckler wasn't the problem. Eckler's not the reason the Chargers are 1-2. So the truth is, I don't know what's going to happen, but those are my thoughts. All right, so we're at 278 viewers right now. We're at 190 likes. It just feels like we should be able to get to, 220. Let's get to 220 likes. We got 280 people here. We easily. If you haven't liked it yet, come on. I beseech you. We're at 207. I like that. We're at 210. I like that too. 218. Oh, we're getting there. Love it. 225. We did it. Well done. Charles says, hey, chat. He say anything about Aaron Jones? Don't want to bombard him with similar questions. Well, that's very nice of you, but I haven't. I'm glad to talk about Aaron Jones. So he's playing in tonight's game just in a few hours, obviously, against the Eagles. It doesn't, given what the Eagles' defensive line has lost, you would think they would look worse stopping the run. They still have looked very good stopping the run, and it doesn't feel like a great matchup. But this is a great test, I think, this game, of just how committed are the Packers to the run. Is there really enough work that you can use these Jones and Jamal Williams basically 50-50? Aaron Jones didn't play 1 third down snap last week. That's alarming. If you're an Aaron Jones owner, that is alarming. I certainly, of course, prefer Jones vastly above Jamal Williams, but the point was that last week in a game where they're cruising against the Broncos, they can afford to give both enough carries that Jones doesn't suffer and scores a 1-yard touchdown, and it all works out fine. I'm interested in maybe a more competitive game and maybe a better defensive front. How committed are they still? Do they try to maybe get Rodgers untracked and Devontae Adams untracked instead? Jones didn't fare great in my ranks for this game. You can see him at harrisfootball.com. He's a mid to low level RB2 for me, and I know the touchdowns have been awesome. But it's going to be a revealing game. I have some trepidation. I'm not rooting against him at all. I think he's a pretty good player. I don't think he's great, but that's definitely one of the storylines to watch for fantasy tonight. Let's keep going. Let's just keep going, shall we? Barry, good question that I've talked about not here today, but lots and lots on the podcast. What do you do with Stefon Diggs? I'm all rumpled. Look at that. I'm all like rumpled. Have you guys been laughing at my rumpledness the whole time? What do you do with Stefon Diggs? He's the ultimate buy low. I recognize that a lot of people who listen to my podcast and who frequent this YouTube channel own a lot of Stefon Diggs, and I feel bad for having imparted such pain in the first weeks 1 and 3. 2 was okay. He scored a touchdown. You're certainly holding if you're a Diggs owner. This is a bad week. I think Thielen and Diggs are both outside the top 24 receivers because the Bears are rough. But it's the ultimate buy low because there's nothing, having watched all this film, there's nothing about Diggs or that offense or anything else that says now they don't like him, now that Adam Thielen is so much more important. Adam Thielen got so Kirk Cousins, quarterback draw, tackled at the 1. Adam Thielen lines up at like wing back, and they fake a pitch to Dalvin Cook and fake a little inside handoff to Adam Thielen. He runs it in for the touchdown. Now, he'd scored a touchdown earlier, but he scored a touchdown on totally blown coverage, where it was like a hold it, deep over route. Like, that wasn't an Adam Thielen thing. It was just he was the body who was there. It winds up looking numerically like, oh my God, they like Thielen so much more than they like Diggs. Obviously, they should be treated so differently. Thielen's just on another level. And when we get to the end of the year, I still feel really strongly that we're not going to think of them as I like Thielen a lot. Believe me, as a player, he's a fantastic player. He's not some slow white guy. He's good. He's a good player. Stefon Diggs is probably a better player, but they do different things. They're both really good. I think Diggs is still a buy low. This is right now before the Bear game where everybody's looking at the Bear game and going, I don't trust Kirk Cousins in this situation at all. I'm very worried about everybody for the Vikings, rightly so. That's a great Bear defense. Maybe this is the moment where you could get him Diggs for the least amount, and then bench him, just stash him. Let's work. And then I just think going forward, it's going to get better. That's my position on Stefon Diggs. It's been rough though. Let's see. What do we got? Jorge says, well, then what do we do with Tarik Cohen? And that one feels easier for me. We're not starting Tarik Cohen in any except I have one league. It's the CBS IDP league that I talk about on the podcast sometimes. It's the I think I was in I think I made it 3 or 4 years. It might have been the finals one year, but I haven't won it. And I sort of made a big production about the fact that I liked my team, and then everybody got hurt. Drew Brees, Saquon Barkley. I had Antonio Brown in that team. David Njoku. Darius Geis. There's one more big one, but anyway, it's doomed, right? Tarik Cohen is starting on that team because there's nothing on the waiver wire. Incredibly deep league, but no, we're not starting Tarik Cohen even in a PPR. We're just gonna see how this plays out. I frankly think he's droppable in shallow leagues. It's been really bad. It's obviously all about usage, but the usage has been terrible. I just don't understand what the plan is. I had somebody smart, a listener who's smart, tweet me and say, dude, calm down on Tarik Cohen. This is exactly how the beginning of last year worked. They didn't use him enough, and then they figured it out, and they started throwing to him 7 or 8 times a game, and he made a bunch of big plays, and we all loved him as an RB2 in PPR. And that may be right. Maybe that's the argument not to cut him. But I don't know how you can start him until you see that start happening, because it's just the usage just flat out isn't there. Here's one of the most exciting weapons in the game, and they've just decided, yeah, we're okay. We're just going to throw it to him 3 or 4 times. We're good. It's confusing and upsetting. All right, one more time. Unplugged this time because that was just the charger. That was stupid. This is the lawnmower from Manscaped. They're sponsoring today, and this is a nice little nifty invention. If you're interested in it, the power tools for your family jewels, as they say. That's copy from them. I didn't come up with that. I'm not smart. But they are a pretty cool company. Like I said, funded on Shark Tank by Mark Cuban. He was in. And they've been really successful. They have very funny commercials. When they sponsor the YouTube show, we run some of their funny graphics and stuff. They're awesome. They have a great sense of humor because they recognize the product is silly, and yet it's kind of important. I don't know if it's important, but it's nice to be groomed down there for when the significant other in your life comes by. I feel like that's a nice little treat. So anyway, whatever. If you're interested in this lawnmower, there you go. Manscaped.com. Use the promo code Harris20, and you'll get 20% off your lawnmower. It's a funny gift. We have ladies watching this. Give this one to the man in your life. I feel like I would have been happy if the girlfriend had given me this, and instead Manscaped gave it to me because I'm not saying anybody right now. It's the year we fight love, people. But I'm groomed just in case. The year we fight love. I'll tell you right now. And we have, if anybody listened to the podcast with Liz Loza the other day, we have some candidates, obviously. Very, very good candidates. So thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring, though. Let's see. Ryan says, who is basura? Because I keep saying basura time. Well, basura is Spanish for trash. It's garbage time. I just call it basura time because I got sick of saying garbage time at some point long ago in ESPN days. I got sick of saying it, so I just started saying garbage basura time. Derek says, is Duke Johnson better than Carlos Hyde? Well, if you're asking me who I would rather have on an NFL team, I would probably say Duke Johnson. He has a more varied game. He's a better pass blocker. He's clearly a better route runner and pass receiver. If you're asking me who I'd rather have on a fantasy team right now, it's probably Carlos Hyde, because he's very obviously the one that they trust carrying the ball on a regular basis. Duke Johnson just can't get a sniff of kind of traditional running back carries. He's the third down back. And Hyde isn't going to play on third down situations, so it's going to wind up being frustrating. You get the 10-carry, 19-yard game from Carlos Hyde, but he scores a 1-yard touchdown. You're like, yes, I'm great. I mean, that's how Carlos Hyde's season started in Cleveland last year. That first month in Cleveland, his yardage totals were bad, but he kept scoring, getting in the end zone. And so, yeah, I guess I would prefer to have neither at this point, but I think Hyde, fantasy-wise, is probably the way to go. Let's see. Cody says, hey, Harris, I'm 0-3. Hey, man, I have an 0-3 team. I'm with you. In large, I am 0-3. That is not a traditional turn of events in large. Just lost to Craig Clark this past week. It was not good. He talked a little crap. 0-3 and just got offered Nick Chubb and Tom Brady for Le'Veon Bell. At 0-3, do I need to take it just to try and get the win this week? I mean, the win this week isn't any different than the win that you might give up in a bye week for Nick Chubb or Tom Brady, right? But I get it. What you're saying is Le'Veon Bell's on bye. I feel like I just need a win. I mean, I think more than anything, whether if the loss comes 3 weeks from now, then you feel better because you had a couple more weeks of being entertained and being 0-4 as opposed to then being 2-4 feels different. I get it. I think probably we shouldn't be motivated by that logic so much. However, that trade isn't terrible. I mean, I never like the quarterback being the kicker in a trade in a lot of leagues because you can find quarterbacks. You probably have a quarterback. He might not be. I mean, Brady's having a good year. Brady's old. Stuff can happen to Brady. I would love if the kicker was a receiver that you could use, or Darren Waller, or tight end you could use. I think it's probably a fair trade, though. So I still see single position questions, not going to answer them. So if you're asking me over and over and over, running back, wide receiver, just go to harrisfootball.com. I have ranks that I fanatically update every week. I spend a lot of time on those ranks. I frankly don't remember them in my head. Like I can't just say, okay, my number 14 is this guy, number 15 is that guy, number 6. The rank page is a lot better resource than I am. I wrote it, but then I don't remember it. That's why it's there. So go to harrisfootball.com. You'll find my ranks. Cody says, watch out for his knees. I know. Where's Craig Clark? Craig Clark talked a lot of crap to me. And then I was like, well, I'm just glad you listen to the show. I'm shocked you listen to the show. He goes, of course I listen. How else am I going to find out how to lose in DraftKings? I was like, oh, man, shots fired again. What the heck? Craig Clark. Uncool. Ryan says, Miles Sanders or Terry McLaurin. Help. So I did Terry McLaurin talk on the podcast today. So please listen to the podcast. You'll get full Terry McLaurin flex type situation talkiness. Because Sanders and McLaurin both represent the same kind of risk, it strikes me that you just go with McLaurin because his ceiling is higher. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. If Miles Sanders fumbles one more time, he might never play the game ever again. He got benched last week for fumbling, so we'll see tonight how it looks. But you know how much risk there is with Sanders, and of course McLaurin is a high upside, low floor kind of player also. I probably would play McLaurin. Let's see. Ryan says, Harris, how much weight have you lost? Do I look like I lost weight? Also, are you past at 10 by 225 on the bench yet? So I actually just worked out before, and I don't bench 225s anymore. It's been a few years. The McCaffrey year was the year, probably last year I was like really trying to lift 225s. Now I just did 12 at 180, and it's pretty comfortable. 12 at 180. I haven't lost any weight though. If I'm looking skinny, then maybe it's the camera taking weight off. I'm not sure. Let's see. Yuya says, David Montgomery or John Brown in a half-point per reception. It feels easy for me to just say John Brown and let's just see about Montgomery. It just seems easy right now to go, Montgomery's workload's okay, but he's not really doing anything with it. So feels like I can just go, let's give him the week off. Hey, Room, says Jason, smash that like button like Saquon smashes defenders. Should I trade Saquon Barkley and Kenny Golladay for Gurley and Fuller? I have Cooks and Diggs. I don't, you're giving away Golladay and you have Cooks and Diggs. I'd say no. I would say in that case with Cooks and Diggs, two dudes. I mean, Cooks was okay last week, but I'm just worried about the Ram offense. I kind of want to give myself options at receiver, but I get it. You're sort of getting Gurley for nothing for a while. I think probably not. I probably would not do that deal. Zach says, do you think Darryl Williams is going to get a decent amount of touches again this week? I really don't know. I always say in the podcast, can't legislate usage. I can't tell you how they're going to deploy them. I just don't know. It's sounding like Damian Williams so far hasn't been able to do anything in practice. If it comes down to no Damian Williams, it would seem to me that what we saw last week kind of worked, and it would probably trend in that direction as well. Now, McCoy got a lot more work early, and then McCoy tweaked his ankle, and that's when Darryl Williams started catching passes. But Darryl Williams is involved early in the game as well. So my guess would be he would get some touches, but I really can't tell you how many because nobody can, because that's not something that we know beforehand, unfortunately. Let's see. May says, bring back Under the Gun by Apex Manor. What do you mean bring back? That's the theme of the podcast. It's there every day. Ethan says, as a Pats fan who watches all the games closely, has Brady had any deterioration? No, Brady's got a better arm than he did probably at the beginning of his career. Brady has not shown any deterioration at all. There was this thing, someone on the podcast this week said, was it Liz maybe? She was justifying why she had Brady 13, and she said, well, he doesn't like to get hit. And I'm like, there are quarterbacks out there who like to get hit? That's interesting to me. Yeah, I think Tom Brady's still really, really good, but the Patriots do change things up. I understand what the hesitance was on Brady to start the year, even if I didn't share it. It was, okay, he's old, but also, what if they're a running team? What if they mix things up a ton? What if it's not Brady? What is 120 yards at some weeks? And it hasn't been through 3 weeks, but game plan-wise, it certainly can change. AJ says, what's your opinion of Panthers quarterback Kyle Allen? I dropped Carr for him as my QB2. I also have Mason Rudolph. I mean, it was a pretty good performance. He had a few very legit throws. He also had some bad moments, some sort of cluelessness in the pocket. And I think he gets a stricter test against Houston this week. But I think it's not as strict a test as maybe we thought, maybe when they had Jadeveon Clowney. In a super flex, he's a low-level QB2 right now, given what we saw for 1 week. But I have a suspicion that Kyle Allen is not a future NFL starter. I'm not sure of that, though. I didn't watch him play and say, oh my God, he's not. He's the best he'll ever be is Case Keenum. He played pretty well, albeit against Arizona with some bad pocket awareness, with some loose throws. But he made the back corner end zone throw that he threw in that game was a legit throw. It was really good. Let's see. I'm not going to read that, Johnny, but it's funny. Let's see. Again, you're asking a quarterback question. Just go to the ranks. It's all you do is go to the ranks. It's the greatest thing. It's the greatest invention in the world. It's the internet. Just go to the ranks. Chris says that Brady is Benjamin Button. I don't know if he's aging backwards, but he doesn't seem to be aging. He's more like Dorian Gray. Trevor says, trade away Miles Sanders and Stefon Diggs for Devontae Freeman and Tyler Lockett. I would rather not sell low on Stefon Diggs, right? I would rather, I guess what you're doing, it's probably a fair trade. If you're just over it, it's probably a fair trade. I don't like selling distressed assets in fantasy. I like buying them. So I don't want to sell low on Diggs. And clearly if Diggs were Diggs were the wide receiver 14 or wherever you drafted him, or 16 or something, you wouldn't be doing this trade. So you are selling him at a discount. I don't love selling at a discount, but I don't think you're getting hosed. Lockett's legitimately good. Freeman, you're buying on a good Freeman game. I think the person who's trading you Freeman is very clearly worried that was a blip game and that he'll come back to earth a little bit. So it's probably fair. Would I do it? I prefer not to sell assets that are distressed. Let's see. Martin says, chances of Josh Allen and Dawson Knox destroying your footy pajamas this week. I mean, destroying would be something to see if it's like a Bills rout. That would be very interesting. You know how I think that game's going to go? I actually think I have Buffalo in the game. I think I put the line I can look that up. I put the line, I just passed it. I put the line at 6, and I guess the line that I saw was 7. So I think the line's probably about right. I think, on the road, I think on a neutral field, I think the Patriots are better than a touchdown better than the Bills are, but I think the Bills are okay. Josh Allen can keep his team in a lot of games by being an athlete, and I think he probably will do that for a while. Josh Allen can also crush his team against a defense that knows what it's doing by being a knucklehead, which he hasn't had a game yet this year where he hasn't been a knucklehead. I mean, the Bengals game. Just what are you doing? I don't know if you saw it, but the end of that first half, it's like just they're not going to score. They're deep in their own territory. He just takes off, and he just starts running down the field, fumbles it, and the Bengal guy couldn't land on it in bounds, or else they would have had a field goal, which would subsequently maybe have been the difference in the game. Let's see. Would you roster Antonio? Jimbo says, would you roster Antonio Brown over Corey Davis or Dante Pettis or neither? So we had the Antonio Brown conversation earlier. I probably can't recapitulate the whole thing. I was probably very annoying to people because they don't like it when I talk about social issues. But I just don't know what's going to happen with Brown. I guess Corey Davis, not Dante Pettis. I think I would probably stick with Dante Pettis and just see what it looks like coming out of the bye, not starting him or anything like that. I don't have a lot of hope with the Titans receiving game. I just don't. But I don't have a lot of hope that Antonio Brown plays either. I just don't have any way of knowing that. No way of knowing. So if you wanted to just, is there a world? I said this before. Is there an X% chance that Antonio Brown, the cloud lifts and all the legal stuff goes away and he goes to rehab for a couple of weeks and comes back and pronounces himself like, I recognize I was wrong and I apologize? I mean, it doesn't seem like that's the kind of guy he is, but is it possible? Could his agent possibly get through to him and have him do that? And he lands on a team that needs him in the second half of the year? It's possible. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm not guessing that's going to happen. I'm not ranking Antonio Brown in my top 100. I just don't know. So let's see. Is John Brown – let me do a lightning round here at the end. So if I don't give you an explanation why, it's just because I'm trying to go fast. Ryan says that's not Ethan says, is John Brown a good sell high candidate? I'm not sure how high he actually is sell-wise. I mean, are people really viewing him as like a surefire top 20 receiver? But if you can get somebody to value him that way, sure. Let's see. Trade Juju for Carry-On. So I have rest of the season ranks. I would really advise you check those out. I actually don't remember who I have higher between the two. They're in the same neighborhood. I might have Carry-On higher, but check out the rest of the season ranks. Chris Johnson says, is Chris Herndon worth rostering? Yeah, he made, on the podcast on Tuesday, he made and the YouTube channel on Monday night as well. He made my list of deeper league ads, right? Standard kind of league ads, because the Jets are off this week, and then he has one more week off. And then, so if you need a tight end, I don't hate the idea of rostering him right now. Do I prefer who wins tonight? Jeff says, I'll say Packers. I have the Packers covering as well. They're -4. I have them at -6 for whatever that's worth. Again, if you're asking a single position question, I can't urge you enough. Just go to Harris Football. Can't say it more. It is a little frustrating, but I guess people are jumping in and out of the chat, I guess. If you have a trade question that's like this guy or that guy, just go to Harris Football. I've got rest of the season ranks. That'll tell you the answer. Gamefire says, Todd Gurley's still good at football, right? I think so. Yeah, I think he's still pretty good. Ethan says, what player has surprised you the most? It's tough to answer open-ended questions like that because I don't know. I don't keep a Rolodex of surprises and grade all the surprises, right? Marquise Brown surprised me. He's been kind of awesome. Flex decision. Ooh, I lost it. Flex decision. Emmanuel Sanders or Justin Jackson. I think I play Emmanuel Sanders. I don't. No, sorry. I think I probably play Justin Jackson against the Dolphins. Let's make sure Melvin Gordon doesn't play. I'd probably play Justin Jackson. Did I ever do YouTube work on Chris Herndon? I have not yet, but that's a good idea. I'll put it in the hopper. The Renaissance movement. I see your question. You keep asking it. I'm not going to answer because all you have to do is go to theharrisfootball.com and look at the rest of the season ranks, and you'll see the order in which I have those players ranked, and you'll know whether I think you should do that trade, okay? Rock on. Half point per reception, James White, Marvin Jones. I'll go James White. What do you think of George Kittle, says Chris. He's been a little disappointing to this point. He's off this week. I think you're fine. Don't worry about it. Who ends up as the number one running back this season? Right now, in my rest of the season ranks, I have Zeke Elliott as the highest ranked right now. Is Mecole Hardman good, or is it all Mahomes? I think it's mostly Mahomes. He's fast. I don't think he really does anything other than run straight. Everyone smash that like button. Thank you. What is the end result of the future for Newton? I don't know. That's a great question. I don't have any way of knowing beyond you, but we'll see how healthy the foot gets. That is the big question. Do you think Kerryon will pop? Sure I do. Do you like Jamal Williams tonight? I'm hurting at running back. I don't like him. But if you're hurting at running back, sometimes you don't have a choice. He'll probably get some touches, but I don't like him. Concern for Tarik, should I drop to handcuff Marlon Mack? The problem is I don't think is Jordan Wilkins really a handcuff to Marlon Mack? Does Naheem Hines get involved? That offense is just sort of geared around Marlon Mack right now, and I don't know how it would look without him. Definitely concerned for Tarik too. Me too. Not starting him. That's for sure. You're not starting him. I don't hate it if you drop him if the waivers are pretty available in your league. Is Wentz a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson? Probably to win games right now, yes. Wentz is just ahead of where Watson is as far as being able to run more stuff, read more progressions. Watson is a crazy freak athlete who has the fantasy cheat code and is improving. I mean, I think in that regard, it's just where Wentz is coming from a background of running a pro-style offense, has done it before, and Watson is coming from an amazing, awesome, I loved him career at Clemson where it was a complete college offense, and it takes a long time. But if I were starting a franchise right now, I might take Watson because long term, I think he can figure this stuff out, and I think he can. But right now, I think probably Wentz is a better quarterback for like real life football. What'd you see on Daniel Jones' film from the Tampa Bay game? Ryan says. I talked at pretty great length about it on Monday, the beginning of Monday's podcast, so I would urge you to download, give it a shot, give it a try. That would be lovely. I'd say that for really everybody watching. If you like these, you can basically get 5 of these a week from me on the podcast. I'm not answering your questions, but I'm talking about what I saw on film. But Daniel Jones, I thought, very rough first half, really loose, didn't really see the rush, all the stuff you'd see. However, a lot of good stuff, like keeps his eyes downfield, pretty accurate, a couple really baller accurate throws. More than anything, he's got the cheat code. He runs, right? So there's potential there for him to join the ranks of the running quarterbacks for sure. All right, that's got to do it. I got to go do some stuff before the game tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring. Check out manscaped.com. I mean, they're the reason this happened today. And if you enjoyed this, thank them by at least checking it out on manscaped.com and use the promo code Harris20. Thanks, everybody. And I'm going to do this again next week. See you. Bye.